pass over the panel to do introductions, and we'll go from this side all the way around. So we'll start with Annie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Got my first position in the industry. I'm a graduate 3D artist at Frontier Developments. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Tom Coveney. I'm currently a senior level designer at Rocksteady Studios. I'm an alumni from this course. I was here the first year it ever ran, so that means I graduated 9 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. Um, and since that time, I've worked at a company called Antimatter and have now moved on to Rocksteady. Like I
Cool.
Right. I'm Thomas Walker. I'm a mid-level character artist at Distinctive Games, and I graduated in 2020.
Hi, I'm Louis Squire, Lou for short. I've worked at Airship Industries, Crafton, and Expression Games. Graduated in 2019.
Excellent. So everyone on this panel has graduated and has went through that sort of journey that some of you are about to embark on and going into the games industry. So I think we're probably going to open it up to go to the panel and just maybe talk about their journey into the industry. So I'll go the opposite side this way. So I'll start with you, Louis. What was
Yeah.
your kind of sort of journey to get that first gig?
Well, the first gig didn't come right away. I got a job doing 3D art for a hardware company. We used to make GPUs, Kings Langley. They were Imagination Technologies. I was one of two artists in a building of 300 engineers. Uh, Intern pay, amazing, but it just wasn't the dream. So I quit and I was unemployed for a year. I just portfolio grinded and I got mentorship from some industry artists. And then I got my first gig at Airship, which is an outsourcer. So I worked on tons of different AAA projects for about 2 years. And then I moved over to a startup, which was Expression Games, who had taken on Hell Let Loose. Worked there 6 months as a mid-level and then went to senior, which at that point we were building the team. So I was responsible in the hiring team and I hired and mentored 4 junior character artists. So that's a really different experience between doing the interviews on one side to the other. And then after about 2 years of that, I went to Crafton, which is a bit well known as PUBG Studios in Amsterdam. So I've been living over in Amsterdam for about a year, working on their new IP, extraction shooter, NDA, so along those lines, right? So yeah, that's kind of where I am now. Just finished and come back to Plymouth.
Oh, thank you very much. And Tom, what was your sort of journey?
Um, well, I graduated over COVID, so everything was kind of up in the air. So I mostly did art competitions to keep my portfolio up, and I did some freelance work, kind of unpaid freelance work for a iOS game, which unfortunately never got into the market, but I got some exposure from that, and I was just portfolio, expo, just keep doing applications, and then eventually I got accepted at Distinctive Games in Sheffield to work remote as a junior character artist. It's a small independent team of about 20 people, and we make sports games for iOS. So we've made things like Rugby Nations 21, 23, and 24, and then I was the main character artist on Hockey All Stars 24, and right now we're working on NDA IP, still sports based, but NDA. So.
Thank you. And Tom, same question.
I first got started doing some kind of pro bono work with someone I knew through the uni course. They were trying to get a project off the ground, and I just said yes, sure, I'll help with that. That particular project didn't end up getting funded or go anywhere, but they were also involved with Antimatter Studios, who were a game studio in Cornwall. And at the time, they were looking for a level designer, and because of my existing relationship with these people, they suggested me for the role. And an informal chat, which is normally just an interview where they can't be able to do it properly, and got taken on a temporary basis, which then became permanent. Worked there for, I think it was 6 years in the end, on a variety of projects. That studio, unfortunately, was shut down by the company that had bought us. They were moving out of games in general, and we were one of the studios that got caught up in that. But after that, at that point, I was an intermediate. I hadn't moved up to senior, mainly because I think the writing had been on the wall for the studio for a while. They had like a hiring freeze and a promotions freeze, so kind of I was sort of a bit stuck. And then when I applied for Rocksteady, I applied as a senior. So that was kind of when I took that step up, because I kind of knew that I was at that level. I just had been sort of stopped from moving up to it. So that's been the last couple of years, and that's been going really well.
So, Annie?
Yeah, so I actually graduated last year from Falmouth, and I got my first graduate position literally just under 3 months ago. So I'm a graduate 3D artist at Frontier Developments. It's been great so far. I'm currently working on Elite Dangerous. I'm working with the ships team. But yeah, so kind of the journey of getting my first position was just trying to find any way possible to develop my skill set. I went through a process of doing Limit Break, which is a mentorship program, and I did a mentorship with John Griffiths. He's a lead artist at Cloud Imperium Games, and I just kind of spent the time before I got my position just finding any way to build my portfolio. So doing new projects, understanding what is kind of needed to get myself a position in the industry, and yeah, thankfully got my position at Frontier, and it's been great.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So Ari kind of touched on my sort of next question. So I'll start with you, Ari, just to kind of maybe expand on some of the things you were just saying there. So what advice would you give to a graduate, maybe from an art point of view, and how to get that first role?
Yeah, so I would suggest, I think, like I was saying before, kind of finding any way you can to develop your skill set, because you obviously learn a decent amount at university, kind of the basic pipeline of understanding 3D. But I kind of went out my way to understand different pipelines. Just kind of actually speaking to people in industry, because industry is quite different, obviously, to learning at university, the way people in industry think, getting the work out like production wise and bits like that. So my mentorship program really helped with that, because I got very like hands-on advice of the way people in industry think, and obviously being in the industry now, all of those things I learned is just kind of finding the way to produce your work in the most efficient way. But also, one of the things was also learning to understand how to take on feedback, constructive feedback, how to, work with other people. And obviously, that's why the team projects are brilliant at Falmouth, because you get that kind of, hands-on thing of like learning how to work with different disciplines. But yeah, I'd say just kind of finding any way that I could to develop my skill set and build my portfolio CV as such. But yeah.
Thank you. Lou, do you have any advice for a sort of graduate? who's
Yeah,
going into the industry?
definitely. I think one of the things I really wanted to touch on was when I was at Expression and we opened up the junior positions. A junior character acquisition at somewhere like Creative Assembly, 500 applicants, 600 applicants, incredibly competitive. We had 30 for a position, which is, so your first gig, your foot in the door. That's an incredible opportunity with relatively low competition. And I checked in with the senior still there, and I asked him about their recent positions, and there's 50. So that double A, but not the big company, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And you might have to really research and find out about them. Expression at the time wasn't well known. They'd taken on someone else's project. Everyone would say, "Oh, aren't you Black Matter?" I'd go, "No, we're the new guys." That is, what you're looking for. We say apply, 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 and definitely do that, but make sure you're applying everywhere. There's places where that opportunity might reside, which you haven't seen yet, and paying attention to publishers and what studios they're investing into can be really impactful, I think.
Thank you very much. So, Tom, what kind of advice would you give for portfolios? What's the kind of thing that you would do yourself, but also in sort of the work that you sort of critique and the things that you see? What are the kind of key bits of advice you would give to maybe specifically in your area, but also most generally in sort of the art space?
See, when I graduated, I kind of kept two portfolios, or I would kind of alter it as I was applying, because I marketed myself as a character artist and as a 3D generalist, because like the opportunities for character artists, they're very low and they're kind of hard to find. So I did kind of apply to everywhere, but I dabbled in UI, I did a little bit of prop work and then character stuff on top just to prove that I can be generalist, just to apply to a broader range of applications. And of course, I kind of went a bit nuts. Like I opened up Google Maps for about a year and I just went town by town looking for games companies, and then just kept a log of like how many I applied to on a big Excel spreadsheet. So it did take a while, and then I mean, like Sheffield, Leamington Spa, Nottingham. There's a lot of game companies in those places, and again, I didn't know that Distinctive Games was in Sheffield, and a lot of people still don't. But but then eventually you just find things on Indeed, Glassdoor, or even on the main websites, because a lot of them don't advertise on LinkedIn. A lot of them ask you to apply for the main website. So again, just trying to find those manually rather than through a third party like Glassdoor or anything is good. But in terms of portfolio, I just cause I did a bit of everything, kind of becoming a jack of all trades kind of person as I just tried to get my first gig.
So that kind of was casting your net, but also to show that you could learn new things and be adaptable.
Yeah. Like working on the games course, I did a lot of UI. So I showed that I could do that, making GUI sheets, and then showing the prop work I made in my second and third year games. Just to, again, casting in that quite large, just to prove that I can be a generalist, but also specialize in character at the same time. So I had kind of generalist and then character stuff, but it was all applicable to just being a graduate game artist, really.
Thank you very much. So Tom, so one thing I want to chat to you about is design. So design is this very large space, like encompasses level design, systems, etc., etc. So what advice would you give to a graduate from the design program who's looking for that job? It could be portfolio advice, it could be general stuff that you have kind of maybe learned in your sort of journey. So if you want to just share some of that.
Yeah, design portfolios are a tricky prospect, because it's not harder or easier than the art ones, right? But they kind of serve a different purpose. So like I think it's easier in art portfolio to display your skills, right? And it's slightly more binary, right? Like either you can use the workflows and use the tools and produce something good, or you can't. Whereas with design, you almost need to use it to show your passion rather than your skills. Obviously, if the stuff you show there is awful, that doesn't help. But think of it less about showing specific skills, like look, here's a system I can design, because that kind of it almost sort of doesn't come up in an interview process. But if you can put in various different projects that you've engaged in kind of off your own back, that shows that you've got a passion for it and a kind of at least some amount of talent of working with other people, which is a huge thing, which is hard to tick a box on an application form, right? But if you can say, as a group I collaborated with these people, I did this, then that's those like soft skills are a lot of what people in the industry are looking for, to separate the 20 different people who can do the job technically. You want the person who's going to fit into the team and be able to take criticism, be able to talk to people and work with other disciplines, because especially on the design side, you are rarely like siloed off into just design. You're always working with other teams, and kind of you have to be able to accept other people's perspective, take it on board. You're designing things to specifications laid on you by the art or the code. You're always working under constraints, and so the more you can show that you're a team player, as it were, the better. To get to that point, I just say yes to as many things as you possibly can, and like pursue as many leads as you can. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this," you can, "Oh, I could help you with that. I could do a bit. I could make a level for that. I can, help you out with some designing a couple of mechanics for it or something. Just because you never know when that thing's going to turn into something, or even if it doesn't, whether some of those people you were working with are going to have other projects that do turn into something, and then they know you, and when things come up, they go, "Oh wait, I might have someone who would fit for this. They're good to work with."
So it's that kind of almost word of mouth about you being that kind of person, being able to adapt and try out things and be that's those softer skills you're talking about again.
Yeah, it's almost a frustrating thing to hear when you're not in the industry and don't know people.
Yeah.
But a lot of what I've seen in the industry is people do know people and are recommended personally for jobs. And I think companies would always rather hire someone they already work well with recommends for them, even for like junior roles and things.
Yep.
So
collaboration and knowledge of other disciplines is so important. And working in
Yes.
those big projects, you're always going to be filling gaps on things that you might not be that familiar with. And then you need the people who are the experts in those things to come in and help and work together.
Yeah, you need like a competency of the technical side, right? Otherwise, that's kind of just assumed. But you rarely get someone who's so competent that you would hire them regardless of what they like to work with, right? You rarely
Yeah,
get those like genius level kind of people in
it's a
any role.
genius, a bunch of geniuses at different things and
Yeah,
come together.
ideally.
Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll throw it out to the audience to see if there's any questions from the audience, and then we'll come back to me to kind of go through the panel questions again. So is there any questions from the audience? Yeah, so we've got one in the front down here.
You got two in the front.
Two in the front, yeah, sorry, I've got a light right in my eye, so I can't kind of see. Okay, I'll just repeat that case. It was mention of the two portfolios. So how do you keep the balance between the sort of like your, shall we say, specialism, like your what you want to be, and those sort of more general points where you're maybe learning new things, and so the quality level's a little bit lower, so you may have to put more time into it. So I guess I'll just start with you, Tomo, just to kind of, because you started that conversation, then I'll open it up to the rest of the panel.
I mean, I guess I just looked at other graduates, other generalists' portfolios and websites, and just saw what they had that I didn't, and kind of self-evaluated that way. Like, I didn't have any environment pieces, so then I pushed myself because I knew I was missing one. Like, I didn't have any UI or evidence of UI implementation, so I made sure that I could evidence that in my portfolio. And then I just kept going like that, just trying to keep everything a bit level, while maybe prioritizing a bit more character work because that's where my specialism was. And then once I got my first gig and I kept making more portfolio work and then stuff for the games, and then when NDA broke, I could post it. Eventually, I just kept, I could start taking away the generalist stuff and start becoming a much more specialized. So not a generalist anymore. I'm a character artist now. I don't need UI, but I can show people if they want, but just take things away. So it was kind of an iterative process, but with a lot of self reflection by just looking at other juniors and other graduate level people and then seeing what they've done and trying to emulate what they have. Would that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, you can add it into the specialism that you're focusing, right? Like it does if you're doing character art, you know that work in industry will go to rigging of an animation. So you could push the piece at the end and add those things in, and they don't need to be perfect, but showing some technical familiarity is really strong. Or in the art sense, I worked with an artist, my junior at the time, Jessica Chan, and we hired her, and she had a bunch of stylized work, and we hired her for Hell Let Loose, which is realistic work, and those skills were transferable, and we were able to teach her and scale her up in terms of that texturing. But now she can do both in that sense, and her folio sort of demonstrates that, where it's like it's not just limited to one or the other, and it gives you a lot of flexibility with the gigs. Obviously, I think her passion was stylized work, but it's good to get your foot in the door with a job and not like limit something because of sort of a prerequisite you have. You can build your way to where you want to be.
Thank you. Has anyone got anything else to add to that one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting hearing your two's take on it, because when I was doing lots of different interviews with different companies, or even just when I was doing my mentorship, I got told quite often that depending on where you're submitting an application, try and tailor your portfolio to that company, in a sense of, I personally quite like realistic work, and a lot of the companies I was applying to would say to me, try and, obviously, if you're applying for a position that is more realistic styled, then having the stylized was a bit confusing to them. I had a couple of times. So I sometimes find that it really depends on the company as well. Yeah, because yeah, I had a few times where like I'd done stylized stuff. For instance, our game Goblins Go Boom last year, and I'd spent quite a lot of time doing like ZBrush work, which is why I put it into my portfolio. But the style was so different to what I personally enjoy doing. Um, so yeah, I definitely think personally, especially as like a graduate when I was applying. Um, Again, I don't know how it is for everyone else, but I was told a lot of the time to try and keep it to what the company kind of style is, try and tailor it to that in a way. But I think there is a way you can also work around it of having different sections in your portfolio. Like in ArtStation, you can do different groups or like tabs for different bits you've worked on. But yeah,
Yeah, that goes through to what you write as well,
yeah,
not just what you put in the portfolio. Like a lot of companies, if you're applying to a job advert, so they will tell you what they want to see. Like normally, there is a job description there, and say we want people who do this, 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 and this. So in the piece you write in your CV, say I do this, this, this.
Yeah.
You know, just they're telling you like the points you need to hit. So it seems silly not to do that.
Google who's working there, what
Yeah.
they had in their portfolio, and
Yeah,
try
true.
and line it up to what they had at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I usually use job applications as kind of like a checklist of things that I can show and see if I can demonstrate it. Like I feel like the less questions that they have to ask me, if I can demonstrate it visually in my portfolio, the better. Especially if I can just mark down everything that's on that job application.
Yeah.
I think even like I know this is branching off into CVs, but even like you're saying it is like a checklist. It's like I remember even just for like my CV, I even just had an area of like skills, all the skills I knew, and it looked a bit like intense, just like listing everything. But I these days, especially like this is getting into another thing, but the way that they look through applications these days, it very much is a tick box of can you do this, can you do that, can you do this. So you almost spelling it out on your CV. It might seem silly, but it very much will get you that next step, that next stage after your application if you do just really fill your CV with your skill set, not obviously 3 pages long.
I mean,
like condense it fairly.
they've got those bots as well where they
Yeah,
scan the
exactly.
CVs and they'd have keywords. So if you just fill the CV with all the
Yeah.
keywords, it'll pop up and a person will see it, which can be a way.
If you get 50 applicants, you're looking for reasons to discount some of them, right? And be like,
Mm.
oh no, they don't do the thing. They don't do, you know. So just make sure you've you haven't given anyone any reasons. Like, oh, this person can't spell.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's the
you know.
least.
Please spell check your CV.
Yeah, spell check CV. Make sure
Yeah.
it makes sense.
I mean, it's the least friction of putting someone on the team, right? Like you said, it's if their work matches the style. Yeah, of course, that's going to be a great fit. And then it's the communication, which you'll go to through the interview, and yeah,
Yeah, you don't apply to work on Splatoon or something with a
Yeah.
World War II replica gun.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just weird.
So we did have another question, I believe. Yeah. So if you just wait for the mics just come. Thank you.
So we arrived a little bit late, so we didn't catch the start of the talk. When we arrived, we talked about niches and roles. So I'm guessing. So I'm a little bit curious about what niches you guys filled in when you were working with a team. Like, what do you partake in that is not your main role in the job, but you wanted to do because there was no one else doing it?
You mean on the course or and when we got our jobs?
Both, pretty much.
Who wants to start that one?
Yeah, I mean, as niches go, I was hired. I mean, Expressions is a great start because we were the first two character artists the company had ever hired. So there was no pipeline documentation. The handover it was all done through Skype, from the previous team. Hey, do you have this file? And you're like, oh God, this is what we've got. And then that team were like, no more Skype. You can't ask any more questions, and had to come up with a bunch of stuff. So like filling in that role because we're going to have people come in on the team and filling the gap, right, is something you hear often where it's like, okay, there's a gap, rather than going like, oh man, there's a gap and we can't do anything. You go like, oh, just do it. And then 9 times out of 10 that's the best option, because you're taking work off someone else. And in character art, right, there's a lot of things on a character, like hard surface items. If you know the character has a knife, maybe you can just do the knife instead of the hard surface team, because then they're going to be busy with other things. So if you take a lot of that responsibility on yourself and you just do things, it works quite well, I think.
I didn't know I was filling a niche when I got hired. Essentially, Distinctive Games, their character models had polygonal hair, and because I had evidence of hair cards in my portfolio, that's something they wanted to move to. So we already had a pipeline that was already established. Like we used Character Creator 4, and then we used head scans to make the characters. But as we were going for better technology, higher grade iPhones and Android devices, we wanted to break away from polygonal hair to make hair cards. So I didn't know that I was being hired because I showed evidence of that in my art test. But then once I got on, I had to make the hairline pipeline documentation, the workflow. There was another junior on with me as well, so I had to kind of teach that to him because I introduced Photoshop to the company. And so I didn't know I was filling a niche because they won't tell you. That's the thing. It's just a crazy random happenstance that it happened, and they saw something that they wanted that they hadn't done before. So they wanted somebody who kind of knew what they were doing in order to kind of be the lead of that, like improving the assets and the art style that we already have. So the answer is I don't know because I'm not hiring. But if I see somebody that does something that I can't, then that kind of puts them forward and makes them more interesting, I suppose.
You surprised when you turned up the first day. I'm like, hey, it's the hair guy. The hair guy is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just in terms of niches in general, and obviously just talking about obviously when you do the game art course here, I know that obviously there are a lot of things. I know the course is developing now where they're bringing in more things like technical art and bits like that, but I think that's where not in being in a company, it's being adaptable as well, because that's a big thing as well, because you might go into a role and it be like a certain thing, but a lot of the time you'll end up doing lots of different things as well, which I obviously found out just like working at Frontier and just how everyone's quite adaptable with things, but also at the same time just being at uni and doing the game art courses as well. Like if you find something that you're interested in or it's not being completely covered, you can just spend some time learning it yourself. Like I know, for instance, people on my course ended up doing bits like VFX and stuff. But yeah, like I feel like there are so many different specialisms that are just yeah, it's like I think for Forza, for instance, like there is literally artists just dedicated to making roads. Like it's stuff like that that it's just you wouldn't think of, but that's why like it breaks into so many different things like specialisms do. But
He was a cloud artist.
yeah,
He made the atmosphere. So if there was a wet day in the game, the grass would have the raindrops and the
mm,
mildew, and he would sculpt the clouds. And I was
yeah,
like, how did he get into that? He was like on Path of Exile before, and it just shifted that way as he
mm,
and they were big studios, so they had that need. So if you follow that niche, you can really end up
mm.
Just
doing
got like
anything.
narrower and narrower and
Yeah, it
narrower.
really gets narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am.
on you go, Tom. On you go, Tom. Go.
Oh, and I was going to say, when I was on the course, I did a lot of niche filling. I was on the design course, but then our programmer left in the second year, and so I did the programming. We didn't have an audio person, so I did the audio and stuff as well. So that was just a case of we've got all these hats, someone needs to wear them, and like I say yes to stuff. You learn things. But then since moving into level design, it's kind of a role of many niches anyway. You'll find yourself filling the requirements for a level are very different at different stages of a project. So a lot of people kind of think of level design as like that white box stage where you make a thing and then you're like, cool, I've done my job, but it's not. It's like after that you kind of curating it through the rest of the process where all the other disciplines are trying to shovel their stuff into it to make it look nice or play well or kind of work better. And so it's kind of managing the chaos, and you end up with a bit of an understanding of lots of different disciplines because it all needs to kind of work harmoniously in the kind of the sort of one space that you're designing and trying to curate. So
Is it almost like a management position of space?
at times,
Yeah.
yeah. And but then that after having gone through that process, that then informs your initial process, right? So you start building things to be easier to kind of to kind of work with all this stuff is going to come and join the party later. It's really satisfying and cool. But yeah, it's just all niches. It's not one thing.
Cool, excellent. So, is there any other questions? I think on the back there. The mic's on its way.
I'm just wondering where you guys end up looking for work the most, if it's like LinkedIn or any other similar websites, or if it's just general word of mouth of how you find work.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow publishers as well. That can be quite interesting, seeing what they own, what studios they're investing into. We're in the age of a massive conglomerate. I worked at Crafton, and they were international, and they were buying studios, and that information is really public. And then oh, that studio's just got a lot of funding, and it's like they're going to be hiring soon. So that can be really like a good way of just keeping your ear to the ground. A word of mouth, following other industry professionals, like where are they going? There's a lot of layoffs, and that means there's a lot of movement. Where are people being laid off? Where are they going next? What are they planning? Are they opening studios? LinkedIn and other websites. I think there's like the Excel spreadsheet of like jobs as well. There's a lot of online resources, but community could be a great boon.
There's a lot of Discord channels which do
Yeah.
have job boards. Like I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn that are higher ups in their own company, like K9 Digital. Like they don't put things on LinkedIn. They just they have an open application email address that they do maybe a couple of times a year. So really just following people on social media, because they will just put things out if they don't want to. Like, is the word spam? They don't want like 500 people.
Yeah.
They want like 50 people and stuff. They want people who are interested in what they're doing. So it's just keeping an eye on everything, just making sure you're active. I mean, how do you guys like? Just LinkedIn or?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like a social word of mouth thing for me most of the time. But that's everything. Like yes, is the correct answer to that, right? Like you say, I mean, it's all good. All of it works. It's hard to guess before you do it which one is going to be the one that's going to lead you to where you want to end up. So try everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like be active on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, follow the right people, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. Like follow some of the studio leads, seniors. LinkedIn is kind of the more corporate space, but like I see a lot of indies. I know I'm jumping in for the panel here, but I see a lot of indies just going, "We have a job post," and they post it on Blue Sky, and that's the only place where they put it. So it's kind of stuff like that as well, following studios and various other accounts. So, do we have any other questions? So, over the other side. So, just over there.
So I see like a lot of articles recently, especially like Duolingo, they're AI first. As people working in the industry, is there a lot of talk about AI? Like, is it something that's being replaced? Because you hear a lot of articles, but obviously that doesn't cover the entire industry. Is it a concern for people who are still?
I don't know if it's a concern. There's a lot of different camps, I feel. There's agnostic people, then there's very like anti people. It is being used. There's productions currently that use it. Art directors use it. Clients use it. Um, just stay informed. That's the best thing you can do, and you don't have to use it. Ethically, there are problems which are very valid, but the more knowledge you have about it and how it's being used, it can't hurt you. You know.
I certainly know people who are concerned about it. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like you said,
Oh,
there's a lot of
definitely.
different camps on it.
It's a hard topic because we could dive into it for I think hours,
Yeah.
but because it obviously dips into lots of different areas of games. In terms of like 3D, I won't get into it too much, but it was a concern for me when graduating. But I think when I actually like obviously I had my first position and I realized how hands-on I have to be with all of my tasks and what I'm doing. I'm like, I don't think an AI could do this. But obviously, you know, stay informed, yeah, and
It,
yeah,
it's hard to
it's
know
a
what the
hard one.
future of it is. It's a very
Yeah.
nebulous technology, and you hear a bit hype behind it, and it's like it's gonna do everything, and then
Mm.
it sometimes does nothing, and it changes week to week. But it's just new technology. It kind of has that like sharp edge, and how it's being used is right now is pretty mild. It's just a tool, and any tool.
It is a tool.
It's like a tool people use for
Yeah,
some concepting, and then they go on to actual proper
yeah.
concept artists to do the kind of the sort of bulk of it. But I mean, there are genuinely studios where people have lost their jobs to people choosing to use
Yes.
AI, but that is definitely easy to over-exaggerate how much of the industry that is. I think
The
that's
Netflix studio, I think, was the most famous. It was the
Right.
ex-God of War like team that got hired, and then a new CEO had come in and was like, "AI is the future."
Mhm.
The right team, but that's pretty rare. It's
Yes.
not happening a whole deal because it's just technology. I mean, if
Social media definitely makes it seem like a bigger problem than it is.
Yeah.
it's
Concept artists are definitely the ones who are like the
yeah, I
most
think
kind of worried about like that side of stuff.
yeah, and writing, I think, and
Yes.
I think
Yeah, that's right.
I know some people who in translation, and
Mm.
obviously that has just been decimated in a sense.
I think as well, one thing I will say is don't let it kill your passion for the
Yeah.
industry, because I think that is a lot of fear. Like people have, they're like, right, I don't want to go into games anymore because I'm afraid of what the future holds. But I'd say if you're passionate about something and also you obviously want to be a part of the games industry enough, like please don't let it stop you. Because I think it does stop quite a few people I do see on LinkedIn. They're afraid about it, and obviously it's fair enough to be afraid because it is pretty scary, like when you have that fear that something's going to take your job. But yeah, just don't let it kill your passion, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you love making things, make things. Yeah.
I think one thing I'll say about this as well is there's always going to be the human creative element in there. It'll not take away human creativity because it doesn't
Yes.
really create. You have to have a human there driving it, using it, and being involved in teaching for so long and the industry for so long. There's been waves of this. This is not the first wave of automation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of riding that wave and seeing if it is hype or it is a thing that's actually going to come in and actually change how we do certain pipelines.
My friend said an old expression which relates to it, which was "you can't buy taste," and that relates to AI pretty heavily because as much as you can make anything, what do you want to make? Not every CEO has the answer to that.
Very few of them have the
Yes.
answer to that.
Do we have any other questions? Can't see any hands. Okay, so I think we'll return to some of the questions I've got here. So one thing that was sort of mentioned a couple of times was networking, be it through online spaces like Discord or that word of mouth. Does anyone in the panel have any tips about that networking aspect of the industry? Because that can obviously be an important part of getting that first gig.
I would say, just as someone who has obviously just recently got a job in the industry, networking is important. And I'm not just saying in a sense of like being referred to jobs or anything, but networking is brilliant in the sense of, I'd say, just talking to people and seeing their journey. It's really inspiring to see how different people got into the industry, but like also it's nice to also, it's just connection as well, just in general, like having the games industry is such a lovely community of people, and LinkedIn is brilliant for it. Like I'll just connect with someone, obviously cross my fingers that they'll want to connect back, and I'll just reach out and just have a chat and just ask them about their position or like where they got to. But also networking events as well. Before I got my position, like Playground Games were doing networking events, which were great because you could speak to the recruiters and bits like that. Yeah.
Like it's free to attend. Like I went there last year and met loads of people, like recruiters, art directors, and they offered some very good feedback. But yeah.
Yeah. Limit Break is also a good one that I want to like try and promote a bit more actually, because Limit Break basically, it just, you connect with someone in the industry who obviously wants to mentor you, and you kind of just connect with someone that is on the same wavelength as what you want to do, and you can spend 6 months basically covering what you would like to learn more about in the industry. And I just spent my time basically doing an environment from scratch and actually having guidance from a lead artist in the industry. So it was like very much changed my way of thinking when I'm developing assets and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say. That's kind of what I use.
Yeah, I mean, building those relationships, right, is the most fulfilling thing. Is giving and helping others, and then it will in turn sort of relay back, and that's the best thing you can do, is helping out someone else.
So you're already doing it as well. All of you are on the games course now, or have been. You've been networking the whole time. It's kind of not a thing that you turn on just at those like specific networking events, right? Like you've been working with people for 3 years, and in a year from now, so those people are going to be, you're going to know some people in the industry, right? And they're gonna know what you're like to work with, how you kind of comported yourself, like whether you're particularly good at certain skills and things. So like it can kind of come from anywhere. Like going to the events is really good because those are that's like intense. Yeah,
And see people.
it's a way of getting like intense networking
Yeah.
opportunity, right? You're like,
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna go and network. But like don't just limit yourself to that. Like you're talking to people all the time. Keep in touch with people after uni, right? Like you don't know where their journeys are gonna take them.
Yeah,
You've already got like a library of network potential future industry people on your hands, right?
Like the industry is really small, so you will just find people like out in the ether again. Like it's probably best advice just to don't cause any drama, just to do your work and
be nice.
be nice, be a nice person.
Yeah.
People remember you more if you're
So-
nice.
So important.
Yes.
And they also remember if you are not nice. as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so another quick question, and I'll throw it out to the audience again. So this is directed at Tom, but anyone can jump in. So Tom, you're now a senior.
Yeah.
So how did you first kind of get to that senior role? Obviously, you mentioned some of that journey, like you were kind of there, but you couldn't get there because of hiring freezes and various other things. But what then does that entail for your role? How's it changed from you being a sort of intermediate to then a
Sure.
senior?
Sure. We'll caveat this by saying that this changes on a company by company basis. Like the kind of hierarchical structure in different companies is like wildly different. So like what a senior means somewhere might not be the same as what a senior means somewhere else. So like in my current place, we have like intermediate, senior, but then you have like advanced and expert, and there's like all these extra levels that I didn't know existed. It's mostly how much. So
Pay?
it's mostly just getting paid more. Yeah. No, it's mostly to do with sort of personal responsibility at the senior level because you're not quite up to that sort of lead or expert kind of place where. So I find I'm teaching people skills, but I'm a long way from being someone's line manager, right? So I'm not responsible for their kind of career or their sort of happiness in the company, but I am responsible for skilling people up at times, right? Like teaching them level design skills, like checking their stuff, making sure that it's all going in the direction we want it to. But even that is quite a small part of it at the senior level. As you go higher, it becomes more and more about that side of stuff of like curating the next like generation of developers to kind of come on and take over stuff. But at senior, it's normally expected that you can be given a task and be sent off and you do it, right?
You know what you're doing.
You don't need people to kind of like hold your hands. You'll be given ownership over like a certain chunk of the game or a certain thing to work on, and it's assumed that you know what you're doing well enough that you will do that correctly. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. So I'll throw it out to the audience. We're kind of getting close to end of time. So is there any questions from the audience? So in the middle over this side. Thank you.
Hi. How do you deal with the like general anxieties of like uni and like getting a job, like sort of like social anxiety, like because obviously networking is very important, as you've said. Yeah, just like that general stuff and like FOMO and comparing yourself to others type stuff.
Oh,
It gets easier. I was pretty introverted and shy growing up, and would be horrified at doing public speaking. But if you do something more, exposure therapy can help. But also with like managing anxiety, there's common advice: sleep, exercise, eat good, socialize. Those type of things can be really helpful. And I definitely get you. I think crowds, even still, big eventful, really noisy. Finding the space outside. It's always nice. Just taking the break, making sure you're managing yourself and what you're comfortable with. That's really important.
I mean, I think it's really difficult being artists because we have to compare ourselves to other people because that's how we get critique. It's how we value ourselves. We value ourselves on a very visual level, but I can see how it can get you down because you see things that people make and they're beautiful, and then you compare that to yourself, and it's very difficult not to let that get you down. But probably the best advice is to just sometimes it's best to take a break. Just go outside, take a break, don't burn yourself out. I found a lot of community on Discords willing to give me feedback and critique whenever I want, and that's just on the headset. It's not on VidCall or anything like that, and they really helped me with my anxiety because when I thought that I still don't think I'm good enough. I mean, I don't think that's something that you could ever really get rid of, but all you can do is just keep asking critique and give a positive outlook because you can't let it stop you. You have to just take it on the chin and then just keep going upwards, basically.
Yeah,
that would be my advice.
And those online spaces can be meaningful connections. Don't have to be in person. Some of the most meaningful people I've met has been through Discord, and I've never actually seen them in person. It can be done.
You can kind of reconcept that to yourself as well, because like feeling that you're not good enough could also be the feeling like you want to improve, right? You're pushing yourself. People who think they are good enough and they're fine and they got there are very few and far between, and are also wrong. So like, if you change like I'm scared because I'm not good enough, change that to I'm trying really hard to be better, right? And that's a positive spin on it. I can't speak to the managing anxiety thing because I'm kind of like happily extroverted, really, which is cool. But I can like allay some fears that you're going into an industry of people who are mostly will share a lot of like ideas and values and likes with you guys, right? Like it is a lot like going into a friendly space in the industry. Like I have yet to experience like a hostile environment or one where you're expected to be really like go out drinking and kind of do all the socializing stuff. No, it's like people who understand these feelings and are just kind of quite chilled geeks trying to make something cool together. So like you're entering a space, like a welcoming space, right? It's important for me.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of just going to say what you said, to be honest. Like it is that, yeah, there is a lot of fear trying to get your first job, and I'd say the comparing yourself is a big one, especially when you've all graduated and you're all trying to get a position, and it is very hard. But I'd say turn that almost comparing yourself to someone else, use it as a way to like, I don't know, like work with that person. I don't know how to explain it. Like yeah, yeah, just in that way, use it as a way to make a connection with that person, work together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, be inspired by them and work together, because you end up then creating that new connection, because you will see people a lot of the time and you'll think, oh my god, their work is just insane, I don't know how to do that. Just use it as a way to like break into a conversation about, yeah, like, how did you do that? And yeah.
So I think in our sphere, when you see someone crazy work, you're like, whoa, they're like a rock star. And it's like, no, they're actually just a person like you, and they're pretty relaxed and they just like doing what you do. So you already have some connection points. So it's
and they've
quite
probably
nice.
got anxiety about someone else's.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that chain of anxiety coming all the way down. So yeah, on you go, Tom.
I was just going to make sure you're not comparing yourself to people at different levels as well. So like if you're comparing yourself to like expert, lead, crazy like level artist person, like you're not as good as them. Probably.
You don't have
like that's fine. But if you are going to compare yourself to the other people who are yet to get industry jobs, right?
And
other
yourself,
people applying for
right?
junior.
What you've done, a year progress is a huge amount of work. And when you see what you were doing then and you look at it in comparison to what you're doing now, you feel pretty good.
Hopefully be happy about
that. So look at your folio from first year.
Yeah, 100%. I love looking at the old art. I was like, wow, man, that was an abstract artist really working out.
Yeah, it is like trust the process sort of thing as well. Like I'm also a TA with the school, like I'm a modelling TA as well, and I have a lot of students like will say, I don't understand why I'm not there yet, and I'm like, just trust the process. It comes with time, and I think it took me about until the end of second year to actually get to a point where I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting there with my work. So it is that thing where just, yeah, trust the process as well. Like you will get to the point where you'll look back and be like, I didn't think I could do that a year ago, and then you have. So yeah.
It's actually a really valuable thing to highlight. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Things where that's not a games job, is it? Right, the modelling TA.
Yeah.
You have applicable skills to areas that are not literally just working in a games company. Like you can teach other people those skills, or like things like programmers and coders. There's all sorts of like other kind of slight offshoots you can get. So don't limit yourself to.
I mean, those teaching skills are so valuable in industry as well. It's like trying to explain a complex idea that's accessible. That's an incredibly valuable skill, and you can build it up in lots of ways.
So I think we're now out of time. So I want to thank the wonderful panel for their insights here. So please can we get a round of applause for our panel? And thank you very much, and I'll see you all soon.